What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. Bye, singing dog. Bye, goal.
I pronounce you.
Bye, wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figure it out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Blog Talk Radio.
Well, good morning, kids. It's bright and shiny. Oh, wait, I'm kidding. I'm in Wisconsin. It's a dreary, yucky, cold Monday morning, and thank you so much to everybody who's joining in for this early morning show. If you know me, you already know I don't get out of bed, and I don't get out of bed early. So if I'm doing an 11 a.m. show, you have to know the person or guest that I'm having on is extremely special. I'm very, very excited today to be hosting the one and only Lisa Jacobson, who is not only the founder of Daily Migraine, but also of the Migraine Hat. I'm going to pick her brain left, right, and sideways. I have tons of questions about lifestyles, all sorts of good things. I don't want to real quickly before we get her on the line, I want to remind everybody of my upcoming shows this week. This coming Wednesday, Lisa is coming onto the show. She is an actual cake sculpture gal. I'm so excited to be talking about her. She has made Star Wars cakes, wedding cakes, you name it, she's done it. Can't wait to get her on the show. And that is Wednesday at 12 o'clock Central Standard Time. And Thursday is our surprise guest, so I'm not giving it up. So I'm not saying anything about it. So without further ado, let's not keep Lisa holding any longer and get her on the line and start talking. Hi, Lisa.
Cindy. Yeah.
Good morning to you. I'm sorry you were holding, but here we are. This Blog Talk Radio format tends to kind of leave us hanging, so to speak, so it takes me forever to call in, so I apologize on your waiting. You, my dear, are a fabulous person. I have dug and researched and looked into you, and I've read your journey, and I have to say kudos to you. I am floored, for lack of a better term, to the extent of, the measures you have taken to not only self-investigate about your own issues, but investigate about how we can make life better for others. Hugely fundamental in my book. That was probably the number one reason I wanted to talk to you. I think it's vitally important that we go out of our way if we have an issue to help someone else. So we're going to talk a great deal about all sorts of different things relative to migraines, etc. But first, thank you so much for coming on the show. So I have some intriguing questions for you.
Great.
Let's start off talking just simply Lisa, which is, of course, you're not just a person with a migraine headache, clearly, and you found your way to me. So I always like to give our audience a bit of a background. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about where you stem from. More particular, do you have a medical background to begin with? Because obviously you know quite a bit about this subject. So did your background find you coming into medicine? And as well, do you also have children who are affected by this? Tell us a little bit about Lisa the person, if we were hanging out with her.
Sure. That's a great question. No one's asked me that yet.
Yes.
Basically, I am 58 years old. When I was 29, I had neck surgery, and a month later, I started getting migraine headaches every single day. I had never had a headache before. I didn't know what it was, and it was pretty shocking. And so, as I said, I've had over 9,000 migraines. And I'm a regular person. I have a job. I've had the same job for 33 years. And I've always wanted to do something to help solve a social issue at some point in my life. So 2 years ago, when I was at my worst with my migraines, I was still somehow able to function, go to work, raise my kids like most people have to do who have chronic migraine disease. And I realized I hadn't met anybody who had migraines every day. And I couldn't find anyone, and I was near a big city, and there were no support groups. So I made a decision right then and there that I was going to start something called the Daily Migraine, and I was going to do it online, and I wasn't exactly sure where I was heading, but I was going to use all my skills, I was going to self-fund it, and I was going to see if I could, throw my hat in the ring and try to see if I can be part of a cure someday. So 2 years ago, I started the Daily Migraine, and now there are 300,000 followers from all over the world. I have a regular full-time job, but I still spend 40 hours a week on this. It's just my passion project. And so what I realized once I started posting and putting things out there, I started out as a blogger, but I soon realized that it was even more effective if I curated other people's writing and I created migraine art, which I know sounds funny, and migraine humor, which probably does not sound funny, and all, created products for migraine, none of which I make any money from. So my goal is to, first of all, make people aware, because most people in this world think that a migraine is, quote, just a headache. And so there's a big stigma around it. But the truth is it's an invisible illness. It's a very serious neurological disease, and it's unbelievably painful. For those who have gotten them, they know what it is. And for people who have had it once, that's all they need to have it to understand what it is. So so my goal was to first increase awareness, which I have done. It's just me, really, on the Daily Migraine. And on Facebook, there is a giant community of people who give advice, take advice, read I put out all sorts of posts and studies and new information, and same on Instagram. And so it's been so rewarding, and I feel like once we deal with the stigma and people realize it's a neurological disease, then we can start raising money for research and look for a cure.
Makes perfect sense, as a matter of fact.
Yep.
Now, talk to me a little bit about this job that you maintain, because obviously, of course, we all know that you're working full-time. So, take me back a little bit, because I'm thinking to myself, my daughter she's 21 now, but, like, you give her a migraine headache, that child was screaming, she's crying, she doesn't even want to get out of bed. So here I am trying to picture this lovely young lady getting up, and here's Lisa, and she's going off to this job, and I'm thinking, yeah, that ain't happening. You know why? Because I got a terrible migraine and I'm dying. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
I'm curious to what you do for a profession.
Yes. Well, I have my own business, and you might think that's incredibly flexible, but on the other hand, I have many employees who I need to show up to work for, and I need to manage my business because their livelihoods depend on it. And in addition, over the 33 years I've had my business, I have employees who get chronic migraines, and so I have to be a boss to people who are out and call in the last minute, first thing in the morning, and everybody else has to cover for them all day. And it's interesting for me to see both sides of it, and I think I'm much more helpful to people with migraine, both as a person with migraine and as a boss for people with migraine. So one of the things that would be great for me to talk about here, since we have a little time, is how you, like you said, how do you get to work? How do you raise your kids? How do you keep yourself from being in a dark room, and missing out on your entire life and everybody else being angry with you? It's really, really hard. And I think what most people don't know who don't have migraine is that it's a 24/7 type of situation where every second you're trying to avoid this trigger or that trigger, the light, the heat, the change in weather, what you eat, whether there's noise, whether you walk into a store and there's perfume, everything, there's so many triggers. And then you have screaming kids, kids you want to be part of their lives. You have stress at work, and stress, as we all know, increases it. So what do you do? And that's why I started the Daily Migraine. And every day I post 6 to 8 times. I have tips and tricks and ideas that I've learned from the community as well. And when I ask people, what do you like most about the Daily Migraine, they say that it has given them a voice. And that makes me so happy.
Aww. See what I'm talking about? It's like labor of love. I say this all the time. I'm doing a labor of love right now, and I'm like, I know exactly what you're talking about. My son's doing a comic book, and it's finally going to come to light, and I'm so excited because it was all based on his illness for 3 years, and so he did it himself, and I'm like working on this day and night, and I'm thinking people don't really realize that if it's anything that affects you, first off, it starts physical, and then it becomes a heart job, you know what I mean, in terms of it is truly a labor of love to get up after you've worked all day and work on this all night or 40 hours a week. People don't realize if you're not carrying that passion for it, it's not going to happen, certainly. And
that's the other thing I want to say. And I think what your son's doing is amazing. And before there was ever social media, there was no way to get the word out. But now, the playing field is leveled, so to speak. And so your son can get out his comic book and to as many people as possible who have this narrow interest. But it turns out that there are actually 1 billion people in the world with migraine. People write me from Iraq, from small corners of Africa, small corners of Nepal, where they don't even have at all a healthcare system. We have a really troubled healthcare system, but they have none. And they can barely speak English, but as I don't know how many people know, but in the developing world, they have nothing, but they have phones. So they are able, with smartphones, to read something like the Daily Migraine. And they just they just need help, and so do most people. So anyway, that is the reason why I did this. And one of the things that's really important is money for research. you would think with so many people with migraine, they would be researching, they would have drugs. Well, they don't because people think it's a headache. So one of the things I've been thinking about, and this is my next act sort of, is I was thinking about the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. And could I think of something anywhere near as good as that? Probably not, but could I think of something close? Maybe. So I thought about it and thought about it. I asked people for money for the Migraine Research Foundation. Nobody really gave anything because that's what happens. You know, you don't feel like you want to give a little bit. You don't know if it's going to make a difference. So I decided to create a product that would help people with migraine, and then I would take all the money that I made from them and give it to migraine research. That was my goal. So basically, help people and take their money and give it to migraine research. So I created something called the Migraine Hat. And it is, people are just loving it, which makes me so happy. It's most people who have a migraine like ice on their head, but you're stuck in a dark room and the ice pack leaks and then it's done and you have to get up. So I created something that looks like a black winter hat. It's a really simple hat. It's cute, but it has an area with Velcro, and it comes with 2 ice packs that have little individualized ice cubes called cryogel chambers. I worked for 8 months with a team of engineers, and so you can actually pop it into the hat. Nobody can see it. You can make the hat as tight or as loose as you want. It could be for a child or a big person, and it makes you vertical. So if you have a migraine that's a 7 out of a 10, so let's say it's miserable, but you can function a little, it gets you out of bed, it brings it down to, let's say, a 5. It doesn't cure it, but ice dampens it. And now you just have a bad headache, which any of us would take any day of the week. And so you can put your kids on the bus, you can cook, you can do all sorts of things, and people just think this is transformational. And it's only $29.95. It's at migrainehat.com. I make no money from it. Every dollar I make, I then give to migraine awareness to raise awareness so that we can find a cure. So I'm hoping that is a sort of like a twist on the Ice Bucket Challenge.
Look at that. Well, I might have a suggestion or two for you at the end of the show. We'll see. I'll mull this over and think about it as far as that good stuff.
Good.
First question that I have relative to this is one of the interesting things that you had been talking about before, and most of us don't think about this, which is interesting. It's key, make lifestyle changes that will help you to be able to prevent ongoing migraines, or maybe necessarily, let me put it a different way. We want to talk about some lifestyle changes, like, for instance, I have terrible nutrition, I'm not going to lie. I like my donuts, I like my Mountain Dew, and I'm not fat, and I don't have a weight problem, so I don't worry about it. So let's say, for instance, I come to Lisa and I'm like, hey, Lisa, does it really matter if I eat Mountain Dew and donuts? Is it really going to affect and is it really a factor in terms of headaches and in particular migraines? Is nutrition an issue?
It can be. So what's tricky about migraine, because there has been such little research on migraine cure, is there are hundreds of things out there that can work, which should give every person with migraine hope. But you have to be patient, which is really hard, and you have to try them each in a very scientific way. So nutrition has helped, hundreds of thousands of people, and other people it doesn't help at all. And I'm going to give you the big reveal. I'm not sure if you know, but I actually went into remission right after I started the Daily Migraine. It's unrelated. I would love to say I started the Daily Migraine and my migraines went away, but the truth was I was so bad that I tried 10 different things at once that I had heard might work. I always am on different preventative drugs. I tried different drugs, but instead of one, my doctor gave me 2 different ones. I tried a TMJ mouth guard. I tried changing my diet, which I'll tell you about in a sec. I reduced my stress in different ways. I used a meditation app. Oh my gosh, there were so many things that I did. And lo and behold, 3 or 4 months later, they basically disappeared. And I still have an occasional breakthrough now if I don't watch the triggers. But really, I am pretty much, I'm in remission. There's no cure, so I'm not going to say I'm cured. But that allows me to spend even more time on the Daily Migraine. So people say to me, well, what worked for you? I'll do that. And I always say it has nothing to do with what worked for me. My trick is that I never gave up. And I really, every 3 months, I will give everything a 3-month try. If it didn't work, I already have a list of other things you can find on the dailymigraine.com of
Right.
like a list of stuff you want to try, and you just try it. So I did try nutrition, and I think nutrition had a big effect. So what I did was I decided I'm going to stop eating sort of the obvious, processed food, sugar, any kind of junk. And it made me feel better. I lost 15 pounds. I think that made a difference too. And you just sort of feel more, quote, capable. And I think because it makes you more vertical and gives you more energy, that helps. And then if you couple that with other things, like I'll just go into the other things. Some people use a meditation app. There are a million of them. And you can get a meditation for 20 seconds or 2 hours. So when I feel my shoulders going up and I feel my breathing being shallow, I stop, I go into my app, and I take a 30-second meditation. You just sit down and you breathe. You can do it on your Apple Watch. There are all sorts of places you can do it. And it's like taking a quick mini vacation and calming down your system. And then, of course, there's tons of other things. There's Botox. There are preventative drugs. There are nerve blocks. I mean, I could go on and on and on. So people, and I'm one of them, who said, I've tried everything, quote, nothing works. That is not true. But, your job is to get up every day or as many days as you can and just say, I'm going to keep fighting this fight. I'm a pain warrior. And join the Daily Migraine on any of the social media channels where you'll have hundreds of thousands of people. Every time I put up a post, there are hundreds and hundreds of people who give their thoughts about it. Today I asked about fluorescent lights. Oh, my God, hundreds of people within a half hour. So, that's the important thing. You need to hear from other people with migraine because there's just not enough information out there. So I think that nutrition can be a big difference.
Well, and the other thing that we too think about sometimes is there are other factors, and not just that, in terms of health changes, let's say, necessarily. I'm guessing that depending on the condition of your health, meaning that obviously there are ways that you can keep yourself in much better shape, whether it's being more exercise, whether it's being more rest. Sometimes those of us, and I'm infamous for this, I'm married to my laptop because I'm in entertainment. So if I'm not researching someone, I'm writing something or whatever. So here I am married to this contraption that's only so big. But I'll be darned if oftentimes you spend too much time sitting in front of it, and you already know not only is your neck and your back and everything else going to hurt, but I tend to get that infamous, general headache, not necessarily a migraine. But so when we're talking about migraine and health changes, is there anything that we can do physically, literally just physically, even if it's just small steps, that'll get us one step closer to avoiding dealing with a migraine headache?
Yes, a lot of people do yoga, which they swear by. And if you don't do yoga like I don't, everybody knows the child's pose. Everybody knows how to stretch, basically. A shower is huge. There are many, many people who put the migraine hat on their head, so they have ice on their head with a shower cap on it. Then you have heat on your neck and heat on your feet. And many, many people say that will improve it by like 50%. But that's when it's an acute phase. What else can you do? You can, in terms of lifestyle, you can, even if you don't know your triggers, what I tell people, and they really love this, is to create their own migraine emergency kit. I have one in my car and one at work. Basically, it's like taking your stuff that makes you comfortable at home with you when a migraine hits on the road. So what I would say to put in there is a small bottle of water, extra migraine meds, like a bandana or a handkerchief to put over your face when there's a smell you don't expect, like you get in a taxi or you're on a bus or you're in a department store, extra pair of sunglasses. A lot of people put ginger candy, which makes them feel better if they're nauseous. A little something for food. Some people like chocolates. I put peanut butter in. And then it's interesting, Cindy, a lot of people use peppermint or jasmine essential oil, which I never even knew. So that what they do is they'll put the migraine hat on, so that dulls your head, and then they put the peppermint extract. You have to be careful it's not near your eyes, but they put it, around their nose and where it hurts. Some people use like Vicks Vapor Rub or Icy Hot on their forehead or their shoulders, And it doesn't get rid of a migraine, but it douses it enough so you don't, it's manageable. And then I want to say one more thing that most people don't know that was actually critical in my going into remission. It's huge. What happens to a percentage of us is that we have migraines every so often, not every day, just every so often. And what happens is it really hurts. So people take an over-the-counter medication like Excedrin, migraine, Advil, Aleve. All right, 45 minutes it kicks in, you feel a little better. Then the next day you get it, maybe the next week. And what happens is it's called rebound headache. It's a real thing. And it ends up that you're taking the Excedrin migraine every single day. And what happens is those over-the-counter drugs give you a migraine. And that actually happened to me for 20 of the years, is that I was taking a drug that was an abortive to just shut it down. And you can't take that stuff more than twice a week. But because it hurt so much when it wore off, I had to take it the next day and the next day and the next day. And so finally I went off the abortives, which was really hard. It's like you just stop. You can go cold turkey or your doctor can help you with some steroids. But once you break that cycle, sometimes you can break the whole thing, and that's what happened to me. So any of your listeners who are taking Excedrin migraine, Aleve, Advil every day, you have to really think about that because that could be the answer for them to get rid of their migraines or at least reduce them.
And that brings up an interesting point, too, as a matter of fact, because I have noticed that I've been getting these, I just started chiropractic care, we're about midway through 3 weeks or 4 weeks of ongoing treatments, and I've been complaining how I leave the doctor, get a headache, then it goes away, and then it comes back again. And oftentimes I find that there are just some health challenges that we have that we kind of have to almost do the grin and bear it. So I'm curious about, in a migraine situation, are there just some ongoing conditions where you're kind of going to inevitably have to succumb to having that migraine? Am I making sense? Meaning that there just is an unavoidable situation. Do you know anything about that maybe we could address?
Yeah, I think that is a great question, which is, so now you make a commitment not to take these pills every single day. You're going to take them no more than twice a week. Well, what do you do the other 5? It's a chronic condition. So what I do now when I have a breakthrough migraine, once it breaks through, I have it for like a week. I don't want to get back on these pills. So what I do is I pick the days that I really am going to take those 2. It's almost like a Weight Watchers. Like which days am I going to indulge and which days am I not, right? So you pick your 2 days that you're going to, you can see that you really need to function, and you're going to take the Excedrin migraine. The other days, you sort of think of it as a sick day, even if you have to go to work or take care of your kids. You calm everything down. You put your migraine hat on. You put your peppermint essential oil. There's something called a Cefaly, Cefaly. A lot of people use, which is it stimulates your nerves in your face to help you. There's a million things you can do to sort of just douse it. So you walk around all day with a bad headache, but not something that's going to get you in bed where you can't get out. And then that way you hobble through the day. Like I do a funny thing, and people don't laugh at me anymore because I'm so much older, I guess. But I hold a can of ice-cold soda, and I've gotten it down to a science. It's actually a mini can of ginger ale because it fits in my eye. And my eye is where I get my migraines, like a lot of people. I just hold it on my eye, and I walk around at work, and it numbs it. And I say to people, don't feel sorry for me, and don't even act like I have this on my eye. And they're very used to it. They don't say, oh, I'm so sorry. They just treat me like a normal person, and I'm able to get through the day. So anything that people can do, and there are a million ideas like that on the website, thedailymigraine.com, where, you add one a month. You make it a commitment. You put an alarm on your calendar. Once a month, you're going to add one new thing. And especially if it's something that moves you towards health anyway, like a meditation, like breathing, like reducing some kind of stress in your life, getting rid of a really negative person. All those things calm your system down and make it harder for the triggers to give you a migraine.
Okay, now on the flip side of the fence, if we look, as I'd consider this, is it possible that the natural progression of aging is something that has an effect? Meaning, obviously, my daughter had a migraine headache when she was 12 years old. Clearly now she's 21 years old. So when she gets to be 30 years old, if she continues to have migraines, is the actual age factor a factor? You know what I'm saying? Meaning that do you know if they worsen, if they weaken? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Great question. So first of all, 10% of people with migraine are men, and they are left out of this discussion, unfortunately, because it's thought of as a women's disease. But when it comes, and so they're told to like man up and toughen up, and it's even worse in some ways for them because they think they're weak. People think they're weak. But if we're going to talk, the thing that relates to your question is the hormonal cycle of women. So for a second, I want to talk about women only, which is that you know, a lot of migraines hit right, like your daughter, right before they start their period, or, you know, as they're getting to that point of puberty, and then it comes on, and for many people, it seems to get worse. But you know, there's, like I said, there's nothing out there that talks to you about what you can do. So that's prior to the daily migraine and any research that has been done. People just suffer with it. But if you can do a lot of these things, there's a way to not have to suffer with this your whole life, or at least reduce the amount of times you get it and how much it hurts. But a lot of people get it worse right before menopause. A lot of people after menopause, it goes away. Some people, they get it after menopause. Most people, I'm going to say anecdotally from the comments that I get, I'm going to say like 85% of people have no migraine when they are pregnant. And I feel really badly for the first 15% who do, because they're really looking forward to 9 months without a migraine. And then, you know, afterwards they come back a lot of the time. And then there are people I see who get migraines when they're pregnant. So it's hard to tell, but your age and your hormonal shape does affect migraines. It's just you just don't know who it affects and how.
Gotcha. I see what you mean. Yeah, because I've thought about that because I know my little boy, he's 12 years old now, but a couple years ago when we go back, I mean, he was screaming, jumping on the floor, the whole 9 yards, and logic dictates as we age, not only do we learn how to handle them better, we can sometimes harness them depending on the tools that we have. You know, when you're 12 years old versus having the appropriate tools when you're 40 years old makes a huge bit of difference, I'm guessing, because obviously
I think
there's
that's
different
true.
factors there.
But the flip side is that people get more and more frustrated and don't believe it's ever going to go away. And that's why I'm in this, because I'm here to say that it can. I mean, I was literally, 56 when they went into remission for no good reason except that I didn't quit, and I tried I always had a list of 30 or 40 more things I was going to do after if whatever I was doing didn't work. So there's so many things to try. All sorts of things. There's drug and medicine related. There are alternatives. There's all sorts of other stuff. There are tons of things to try.
Now, we have to go back and obviously ask the question because I forgot to ask this one when we were speaking about the food component side of things. Now, to all those that listen in, and you may not know this, Lisa, but one of us here on this conversation loves her wine on occasion. Not all the time, but she likes her wine. So I'm thinking to myself,
I think most people do.
I'm wondering if the alcohol factor, once again, is a factor. You know what I'm saying? Meaning that, have there been studies, do you know of anything out there that says maybe there's a link between alcohol and migraine? I'm just curious now.
Yes.
That's more of a curiosity question there.
No, there is a link. And so there are some things that are migraine triggers for most people, and then there are food migraine triggers for fewer people, but a lot of them have it. So every time I ask the question, do you have any food triggers, it engages thousands and thousands of people, and I find that most of the time the most common ones are red wine and or all alcohol.
She's killing
so people
me.
Really have to stop. And you know what I noticed? I could never find a food trigger for me, but when I ask people, how long after you eat a food, why do you know it's a trigger? I can't tell if I have a trigger because you assume like you could get that migraine 2 days later. And most people say, oh, it's either instantaneous or within 20 minutes. So that way you can see whether you get a migraine. So you clean, it's called the migraine elimination diet. There are a lot of books out there. There's a lot of stuff online. It's pretty simple, but it's a little bit rigid, where you get rid of everything. It's like an allergy diet. And then you add the things back. So alcohol is a huge one. Aged cheese is a huge one. So goat cheese is okay and American cheese is okay, but once you start having cheese that's aged, like blue cheese and lots of cheese, kinds of cheeses, that gives it to you. MSG is a giant one, and it's not obvious because it has a million different names. So that's why if you don't eat processed food, you don't eat MSG, which is good. Aspartame, which is in diet sodas, that's a giant one. And then there are ones like bananas, citrus fruits, avocado. Like I've seen a lot of them that are a minority, but a lot of people have it. So I would, tell people to go on the dailymigraine.com, just put in migraine elimination diet or migraine diet, and the articles will come up to talk about it.
I got
so really,
and the other thing,
I wish I had a migraine food that I could eliminate that would eliminate my migraines. That's a great one. It's really worth doing because you can't. A lot of people have barometric pressure, when the weather changes, and there's nothing you can do. Or hormonal migraines, there's nothing you can do. But food, you can.
Right, and that's what I was going to bring up too, because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, if we have body changes, there are some things. That's why I brought the question up, because there are just some things that are inevitable in terms of that. Just like my other question, which I'm bringing here, is obviously we all come from family, our family background, our family genetics. Sometimes it's just a family genetic trait. So would you say, and we could take an assessment, I assume, but if it comes from a genetic line, how likely is it that you'll live out your life? Or do you feel, for instance, like let's say your parents, let's say they had migraine headaches, they started at maybe age 6 and went on to age 12. Is there a likelihood, because you have a genetic background, of you paralleling that same background, or is it all bets are off, and genetically speaking, there's just a good likelihood that you're just stuck with it, period? Make sense?
Yeah, there's a definite genetic component. So the reason most people, I think, and again, this is anecdotal, because every day I ask the daily COPE question, and I say, are your migraines genetic, or are they not? How did they start? I would say, 75% of people say they're genetic. But that doesn't mean, so that's a genetic predisposition to getting them. But managing them, so let's say once you have it, you have migraine disease, and it is a disease. And then you have to manage it. It doesn't mean you have to suffer all the time. Like I have migraine disease, and I get like one a month now. So if you can be patient enough, which is huge and hard, to find things that reduce it and reduce your level of stress and triggers and everything, you can manage it. It's just for some people it's real hard. If you break the cycle of the rebound headache and stop taking Excedrin migraine every day, well, you can break it. So I would say, just anecdotally, maybe 75% is genetic, but then 25% are people who had concussions. They had, like mine was neck surgery. Some comes through your neck. Oh, and Cindy, there's another thing that I've learned, which I didn't know before I started this. There are two kinds of types of migraines. One is a primary migraine, which is what you and I are talking about, but there are also secondary migraines. And I can't believe how many people, after I put up all the conditions that are related, how many people eventually discover that they have something else. And the secondary part of it is migraine. It wasn't the main thing. There's something called trigeminal neuralgia. There is a hole, like a little mini hole in your heart, which when fixed, your migraines would completely disappear for a lot of people. So people need to find, if they can, a migraine doctor. It's a specialty. And if they go on the dailymigraine.com, I have a list. It's a physician finder. There are 500 people in the U.S. who are actual headache doctors. That's all they do. And once I found headache doctors, I was on a much better path towards solving my problems because they've seen everything. Sure. They don't just that's all they do all day long. So that's another little piece of advice.
Well, now that brings up a very interesting question because we all look at the same kind of thing too, because I've had this ongoing thing with my arms for like a year and a half. I've seen umpteen different doctors, etc. So my question is, in the migraine realm, do we know how likely it is, or the percentage, or even just give our folks just a good estimate of misdiagnosis? Oftentimes have we found that there are individuals who would swear up, down, and sideways that they're suffering from migraines, but in reality it's actually something else. And if so, is there a distinctive way to tell the difference between a regular headache and a migraine?
That is such a great question that I never thought to ask
you.
And so when I get off the phone, on the Daily Migraine Facebook page. I'm going to ask that question. So give it like a half hour after this, and hundreds of people will answer, and you'll know. But I do not know how many are misdiagnosed because they don't get back to me afterwards, when they discover, oh, my God, this is what I have, this is what I have. But it makes sense that many people are, because if you go to your regular doctor, and look, some regular doctors, primary doctors are really, really good with migraine, but most, it's not their fault. They see a million things, so they're a generalist. And then other people go to a neurologist, which is better, but they see a million different things. So, like I say, if there's any way possible that a migraine sufferer who's just had it can get to a migraine doctor, headache doctor, that's the way to go. And then that way you will hopefully not be misdiagnosed. And they know all the other things. There's something called Chiari malformation. Right. There's Sjogren's disease. The other thing is that anxiety and depression, there have been studies on this, that they're 30% more likely in people with migraine, which makes sense because it's very scary and depressing that it will never go away. And it really creates anxiety for the next one and the next one and the next one. So, and they've also shown that people with anxiety and depression are 30% more likely to have migraine. They don't know why. So there's another, quote, disease that all comes along with this whole thing. Usually there's a whole series of them, and if you at least know what they are, it's not to be scared about it. You can get the right treatment instead of having a migraine every day. So there's some hope for people.
That's interesting, and the reason that I say that is because of the fact that oftentimes, and I want to clarify this, and it's not because I'm a village idiot or you, by the way, but those that are listening in, we've all suffered from a regular headache. So we do get some kind of a sense of what that feels like, maybe even sometimes what the triggers are involved. It might sound very basic, but maybe let's go through and talk about what you find to be maybe a couple of the top predominating triggers where you can, without a doubt, say to yourself, well, this is a definite migraine headache. We wanted to do a bit of a distinction here for those listening in who maybe have never experienced it or on the cusp of saying, I wonder if this is kind of a consistent migraine problem. So maybe you could talk a little bit about what you found between research and your own background. What are some of those big defining factors?
Well, like all diseases, there are certain, I think it's called the International Classification of, I forgot the whole title. There are actually very specific things to diagnose it. So I think you have to have 2 out of 4 or 3 out of 4 of these things. Anybody can Google it, but I'll tell you from memory. One is that it's a throbbing or pulsating, pounding feeling on one side or the other of your head. Now, there are people with migraines who don't have pulsing. There are people who have it on both sides. But if you have it on one side or the other, mine alternate. They go back and forth and back and forth. And if you draw a line through the middle of your head, it never crosses. It's like on one side or the other. It includes my jaw and my neck and everything on the right side or the left side, but not the other side. Secondarily, and this is one of the main things, is that you have photophobia, meaning that when you have this, quote, headache, light makes you nauseous and makes you feel worse, like you have to get in the dark. Number 3 is phonophobia, which is that sounds, like they make you crazy, they hurt, and you have to get away from it. So if you're a person where you're constantly saying to your kids, and I would say to my elderly parents, shh, like be quiet, right. That's another one. And then there's nausea. For instance, I don't get nausea generally with my migraines, but many, many people do, and many people throw up. And then I have to say there's so many other symptoms I never even knew about, because there are actually, Cindy, 300 kinds of headaches. Wow. There are literally. So there's some called hemiplegic that hit you on one side, and they're like a stroke. So people can't speak, they can't move, so they don't know that's a migraine, right? And then there's a kind where vestibular migraine, where you're so dizzy, but maybe you don't have head pain. And then there are ones that are just eye-related. And then they're hormonal. And there are just dozens and dozens and dozens of these things. And so that's where a real headache doctor can help. And, you know, the word headache, they're trying to get rid of it, the American Migraine Foundation and a lot of the other organizations, because it, you know, not every headache is a migraine. There's some diseases called like cluster headaches, which is considered the worst pain known to man. It's called a suicide headache. And what happens is people get, like every 15 minutes, they get the most incredible pain. They just, you know, punch through the wall. They hit their head against the wall. And then it stops, and then it starts again, and it goes on for cycles. And it's horrific. So there are many kinds. So you want to find a doctor who knows the kinds, can tell you first if you have a migraine, and then if you do, what kind do you have, and what is the treatment?
And along with that, I just want to quickly ask as well, by some chance, do we have, is there such a thing as a time delineation? Again, I know that might sound ignorant, but meaning a migraine typically will come and go, meaning that it'll start said time, do the, you know, proposed treatment and finish, or is it more of an on and off or more of a long term? I'm just trying to, again, give an overall picture.
No, that's a great question, because that was the fourth one. There was a fifth that I didn't get to, which is...
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, that was my fault. So I'm glad you reminded me. I went on to another topic, which is that I think if it's between 6 and 72 hours, again, I'm quoting from memory, but that is, you know, that's a definition, but it's tricky because many of us get them, they never stop. They might wax and wane to how much they hurt, or maybe not. You know, there are people, I had migraines for literally 25 years every day. And many of the times they never ended and they never started. I didn't even know. It was like one long giant migraine. So, yes, I also think the difference is the severity. You know, we laugh and we say with a headache you feel cranky, but with a migraine you're moaning. And with a cluster headache you are like putting your hand through the wall. I mean, that's how much of a disease it is. If you can function, you have a headache. That's how I would say it. And if you have real trouble functioning, you have the light and the sound, the nausea and the throbbing, you know, it may be likely that you have a migraine. But that doesn't mean you lose hope. I'm just here to give hope because, strangely, I went into remission. I didn't expect to be giving hope from the point of view of somebody who was better. I just thought I was giving hope to people who I could help, you know, even though I couldn't help myself. But it turned out differently, thank goodness.
Sure. Well, no kidding. And as she just mentioned, folks, she did mention she wants to give hope, but she has also been quoted as saying not only hope, but also offer healing and offer help to those who work on ridding their migraines, obviously. So I guess on the same caveat as it relates to hope, let's talk about this a bit, because obviously if you are someone like Lisa, I can only imagine that your migraine headaches are the cause of broken dates, broken meeting, you know, friends, not cooking dinner, not doing things that all of us take for granted as, you know, just a simple walk down the street versus going to a movie, you name it. So maybe to those that are listening in who are suffering from something that they believe is ongoing migraines, how do they not give up? How do they not just say, you know what, I'm going to succumb to this pain, to this pressure, and just maybe in essence,
drop out.
Part, give up on living, literally just drop out of the core. Let's talk about that because that's a huge thing.
Well, I feel like that's what the Daily Migraine did. And before it existed, there wasn't a way to do it. But now there's an actual worldwide support group that you come to anytime you want when you can function. And especially on Facebook and especially looking at the website, thedailymigraine.com, there are it's like you have 300,000 friends with migraine. So every so often I'll ask the question, what do you like most about the Daily Migraine? And I always think they're going to say all sorts of different things. 98% say the same thing. I don't feel alone anymore. And I just didn't know that's what it was going to do. I would never have thought that. It's almost more important than getting better because it's the first step. Because here's what you're saying is so true. What happens is so many people, and I know your listeners they will relate to this. A, you feel guilty to your family because you feel like a bad mom, a bad dad. Second, you're constantly canceling. And so a lot of people just give up and don't even say that they'll do anything, and they end up stuck in their house because you don't want to cancel on people. And if the rest of the world thinks it's a headache, and the person I created the migraine hat with said to me, I feel so bad. I used to think that when people cancel with me with migraine, they were just weak and like, be tough. What's your problem? You just have a headache. They don't know that someone with a migraine would do anything to be able to join everyone else, whether it's go to the beach, go out with your friends. You can't go to a movie. There are too many triggers. There's the light, the sound, the zigzag, everything. You can't go out to dinner because the lights and the sound. I actually wear my migraine hat out to dinner. And, unless it's the dead of the summer, nobody really looks at me. And so my head is like, if I have a migraine that's like a 7, 8, which I would never go out to dinner, I just put it on and I make it tight, and it dulls it out and brings it down to like a 5. So I can function and nobody needs to know I have a migraine.
Very nice.
So that's the thing. You have to have hope. So there are two things. One is to work on going into remission. The second, and more important, is to work on just any kind of reduction. Chronic migraine is defined as more than 15 migraines a month. So if you have that, or even if you have less and it affects the quality of life, you want to see if you can try all these things, be consistent, move toward health, try all these different things one at a time, don't quit. And then, you're looking for a reduction in the frequency or the duration or how bad it is. And if you have 30 migraines a month and they go down to 25, that's success to me. I would have been happy with that.
Time. I agree 100% because it's already going down a number, and that's the whole idea is less frequency equals to less disappointment equals to less hopelessness.
Right. I'm a huge believer in life, at work, and in migraine, and at home, in incremental improvement, a little at a time, and, be grateful for that, keep a grateful journal, whatever you have to do to try to stay positive. And there are days when you want to give up, and that's part of a chronic illness. Those are the days, and you just throw a pity party, and you tell yourself how long you're going to throw the pity party. Like my thing was 10 minutes, and then I have to move on.
Wow.
Even if it hurts.
Isn't much.
No, but it's like it gets you to like say, okay, I'm going to feel like crap, and I'm going to feel bad for myself and say, why me? And why has it been all these years? But then even with my head hurting, I'm going to turn around and do something. Turn the fan on, put ice on my head, create a migraine emergency kit, breathe. If all you can do today was breathe, that you can be grateful. Lie there and try to breathe. That actually helps you because you tighten up when you have a migraine.
And I don't want to forget to ask about that because you've brought up the migraine hat a couple of different times. So we'll want to talk about the basics first, which is, of course, obviously we realize that the main motivation behind doing the hat is, of course, to relieve your pain as well as many others, obviously. So I guess my question is, one of the things I want to ask you about, one of the nice features about it, besides the fact that it rids of the migraine to a certain extent, the reusable flexible ice packs, which are really nice. They stay cold up to 4 hours, which is perfect because that means, obviously, like you're saying, if you want to go out for so many hours, no one will really be able to tell, and it stays ongoing. Quick cooling and soothing relief, meaning let's talk about from onset, let's say an individual, first of all, 2 questions relative to that. Let's say I buy a migraine hat today. How many days am I going to be waiting to feel some kind of relief, or is it even a matter of days? And then second of all, is this something, and I don't mean to question you, but I wasn't quite 100% sure, meaning sometimes doctors will come up with things or people come up with things. Is this something that's been proven safe, let's say, by a doctor or a physician, like those that we look to, meaning saying, you know what, this is pertinent that this individual tries this? Please. Thank you.
Okay. So first of all, what it is. So the migraine hat, the idea of it is to dull your head pain and get you vertical so you can actually accomplish things. That is the idea. That is the whole idea. So you don't have an ice pack that's dripping. You're not lying flat with a normal ice pack. So that's the idea. It's a huge difference from being horizontal in a dark room and being vertical and having a bad headache, right? Mm-hmm. If it numbs a migraine, then you thank God, whatever, that you have just a bad headache. So it's $29.95. I asked them to price it as cheaply as they could. It has, it's like a rectangle with Velcro at each end, and you put in, it comes with 2, for the $29.95, it comes with 2 of these specially formed ice packs. They can press on parts if you wanted to, because they're all individual, or you could not make it as tight, and it just gives you a general cool. So it comes with two because you wear one, and then when that one is no longer cool enough, you throw it into the freezer and you pull out the other one. So you can basically have it on your head all day long. I do. Now, they also added something, and it was their idea, not mine, so I was very impressed, to add a cooler. Because I was saying that when I go to work, there's no freezer. What am I supposed to do? So there's a specially made cooler where the second ice pack keeps it cool and it has ice packs in the wall. It's made for that. And I asked them, could they make a little pouch that attaches that's like a migraine emergency kit. So all your stuff could be in there, which is great.
Oh, nice.
So it's $29.95. It comes right away. There was a wait for a little while because so many people wanted it, and they just got another shipment of like 8,000 pieces. So right now, you can go on migrainehat.com or you can go on Amazon. It's called Migraine Hat, and they give a triple guarantee because I told them, look, if it doesn't work for somebody, let's say somebody likes heat better, which is rare, but it happens. Like they should be able to exchange it and they shouldn't have to pay. So they pay for the shipping back. It's a triple guarantee. So there's no problem if you don't like it. They'll take it right back. But basically people are loving it. And like I said, I think the key thing is if you want to donate to migraine awareness, get the hat for yourself and know that I will take the money that I make from that migraine hat that you bought and give it to migraine awareness. So there's no profit on my part being made whatsoever. I just wanted to create something that would help people and then take that money and give it to charity, migraine charity.
Nice. Very nice.
So.
Now, I want to also bring up this fact because some people might be sitting and listening and thinking, okay, well, let's go ahead and say that I order Lisa's product and let's say that I get the hat, etc. Now, sometimes when you have variables such as using ice packs and other things, it might be a point where you can use it for so long and then it not wears out necessarily, but you have to replace it for some reason. Is this a product that would last for the duration, meaning that they're not going to need to buy a new product every year, meaning investing in it over and over again?
If you're putting $29 toward your health, and also they'll take it back. They're great. I made sure that this company was great, and they love the idea that they're doing something that helps people. And so, if there's any defect with it or any problem, you just send it right back. You call customer service. They're great. So there should be no reason not to get it. Now, a few people have said they couldn't even afford $29.95, and I understand that for some people, especially if you're not working because of your migraines. But then just ask for it for a gift. And once people get it, they buy like 5 or 6 and they give it to everybody they know, especially since it's genetic. And usually there's all these people in your family. And the other reason to get it is a lot of people get it because their spouse or someone in their family has migraines and they don't. And they feel terrible that they can't really help. So here's the thing they can buy to give to their person they love with migraines. So it's very simple. You asked about the safety of it. Ice is the original medication in this world. So it's approved by the FDA. I forgot what class it is because it's straight ice.
Sure.
Like there's nothing about it that's a problem, and there's no pieces that can come off from what I understand. It's basically a rectangle, and you put it on, it's like a wrap. And if you want, there's a little headpiece to put on it if you really want it to look like a hat. But basically, 1, 2, 3, you don't want to fumble when you have a migraine. You just want to put it on and feel better immediately. So.
Of course.
That's
that makes
the migraine hat.
sense.
And they can get it on the dailymigraine.com, the migraine hat page. They can get it on Amazon or just migrainehat.com.
Right. Now, if I may ask this, have you reached the point in time where you have your product, meaning if somebody goes to a specialized doctor, primary physician, or et cetera, is this something that's being used or promoted within office as well, or do you envision that'll be something that'll come down the road?
Well, I think that there are so many doctors who have heard of it and have written me through their patients, and they want information. And so because everything I do is self-funded, I'm not in a position to go market it like that or at trade shows because I'm not making any money from it. But I think by putting it on social media, make it so easy to buy. I mean, you can get it anywhere, and especially Amazon.
Right.
They just tell their patients to go get it. There are a number of them who said, in fact, in the video, when I did a video for it, every doctor who knows me agreed to be in it, said they wanted to be in it. They were thrilled because they feel like half the time there's nothing they can offer. besides
that is just
drugs.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, sure, that's just it. That's the typical thing oftentimes is we'll give you this medication, you can try it, outside of the obvious things, turning off the lights,
Well,
et
I
cetera,
also
et
think
cetera.
it's great for pregnant women, for people. People use it for hot flashes. People send me pictures every day. They use it for, their shoulder, their neck, their headaches, like everything. So it's great. It's really great. I'm so excited about it.
Because I was going to mention that too, but I'm like, then the whole audience will know. But God knows I'm very open. So obviously I've mentioned to at least half my listeners that I'm perimenopausal. Yay, 47 and perimenopausal. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, so yeah, I should probably have one of these hacks because God knows I'm hot one minute and cold the next, and I'm not full blown yet. But I'm like, it's frustrating for people like me just because of the fact that you don't want something like that. You don't want to experience the hot and cold flashes to begin with, but then it's like, okay, great. Now what kind of hormonal changes are going to bring on headaches and all sorts of other things? So, yes, I have thought about this before. And the other thing I want to bring up, which I didn't ask you, but this seems logical, and I'll be finding out this afternoon, but we'll see what the expert Lisa says. I have been getting these headaches, and they're awful. Literally, my whole face is hurting, the whole 9 yards, and I even suspected, well, maybe this is a migraine. And then I'm sitting here, and I'm thinking to myself, let's ask Lisa, do you think that vision changes might have something to do with this? Because Cindy's wearing her old little glasses right now and thinking, duh, go to the eye doctor you haven't seen in over a year, because I'm wondering, so let's ask that question, because I can see where vision trouble or wrong glasses or wrong contacts can cause headaches, but would they cause a migraine headache if we want to be distinguishing?
I'm not a doctor. I'm just a patient like everyone else who decided to put a stake in the ground. But I'm a very, very knowledgeable patient, and I read what everyone says. I think that headaches we all know headaches can be caused by, you need glasses, you need, Cindy, you're 47, right? So soon, if not already, you have like reading issues like all of us. Okay,
sure.
It's the first organ to go, your eyes. Okay, so yeah, it often can cause a headache. Same with screen. Looking at screens too much. Text neck, which is a new name for people just texting all the time. But a migraine is a real disease, and so I'm just thinking. I don't know. We'd have to ask a doctor, but that if it's a migraine, you probably had a tendency toward migraine, and it would be more of like a trigger. Like you're going to get a migraine anyway. Maybe wine triggers you. Maybe not. Not seeing triggers you. But it's not. But there's a real difference, and I think it's a great question because people wonder that, and I think you go to your doctor, whoever it is. And, hopefully it's somebody who knows you and somebody who knows a lot. And they can at least eliminate stuff that it's not and send you to the right person. But I cannot believe when I see people find the right thing. And it really wasn't a primary migraine. And they've been treating it for years like it was. The other thing, you want to hear something really interesting? Sinus headaches, which allergy season is coming. Sinus headaches. People, I'm sure 70% of people listening will say they have sinus headaches, but the truth is that 90% of those are migraine. And any ENT doctor will tell you that. I was shocked to hear that, but it's true. It's like masquerading, and people just call it a sinus headache, but it's not. So that's another thing to ask your doctor. If during allergy season, whatever, you get the sinus headache, go to a good ENT and ask the person, is this really a sinus headache or is this a migraine? But it's got to be a good doctor who knows current research. So again, I would just go to the Daily Migraine, follow it on, or go to the website, follow it on Facebook, Instagram, wherever, and just read the stuff a little bit every night. And there'll be incredible gems on there to help people who think they have migraine or who do have migraine.
That's awesome. Absolutely. Now, we don't want to forget about the obvious, which is you are the founder of the Daily Migraine. Folks, just so you know, one of the really, really cool things that's on the website, besides there is a section for the migraine hat, there's a section, of course, talking about Lisa's journey herself and all the trials and tribulations she's gone through as it relates to migraines. One of the neat things that I found was you offer a forum on the site where people can chat about topics, and you can actually speak to other individuals who have migraines themselves, et cetera, et cetera. Why did you feel it was important to offer such a forum for other individuals? Is it just the connection part, or have you actually gone into your own forum and learned things and become more of a book of knowledge as it relates to migraines?
Well, I think that, what I noticed was a lot of people writing me and asking me questions because I post to them on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. But what if they have a specific question? Someone asked me yesterday about what to do. She's a teacher, and she tries to turn the lights off, but a parent wants more lights on, and now she's stuck with a migraine and throwing up every day. What does she do? So I set up a forum on the website, and people can ask questions, and a lot of people go there and answer them. But this week, I just decided this morning that I'm going to start a closed group on Facebook called the Daily Migraine, where you apply, you click join, I will approve, and then people can ask any question they want, and it's a real closed support group, really, really customized. So I would say in a week, your listeners should check back, type in the Daily Migraine in Facebook in the search box, and look under groups, and there will be a group there, and I expect it to be very, very, very engaged, and you can ask all the questions you want.
Nice. Very, very nice. Now, the last question I have for you should be the most obvious to, well, not to folks, but we want to talk about the three-part system that you have put together that you found most effective in terms of not only keeping track of your migraines, but I love the fact that, and the three-part is this, folks. First of all, you create a treatment idea list. You're going to be keeping a migraine diary and, of course, the doctor appointment companion. I love the fact that not only are you not forcing, but encouraging individuals to keep a treatment idea list so that this way even ideas they come up with, which might be helpful, it's thinking outside of the box to try to get yourself in a better position. You're documenting this information, but also this doctor appointment companion. So talk to me about how you came up with the three-part system, and more importantly, a doctor appointment companion. Explain to the folks what that might mean. I didn't even know what that was when I read it, actually. So we want to understand what exactly is expected of us if we use this system. What do we need to do?
Okay, well, what happened was when I went to my migraine doctors, and obviously I had migraines for 25 years, so I had maybe 5 doctors for 5 years each until I was able to go into remission. And they would say to me, you're in the top 1% of patients the way you come in as a partner. People expect the doctor to do magic, but we can't put together a jigsaw puzzle unless people give us the pieces. So when you start the Daily Migraine, why don't you take your system, which they all knew, and put it on for people and let them just download it. Again, it's free because I don't make any money from the Daily Migraine. So what I did was I have it in 3 pieces, and I honed it over 25 years, and it's really, really great. It worked for me really well, and people love it. So one thing is the migraine diary. It's like losing weight or quitting smoking or anything lifestyle that you want to change. You have to track it every day. And even if you have a migraine every day, you still have to track it. Because when you show it to the doctor can see, even if you can't, the doctor can see the pieces of the puzzle that you may have forgotten. So that's the first thing. And I have a diary that I made. They can download it. They can print it out. A lot of people use something called Migraine Buddy, which is an app. People like that too. But if you go on the website, thedailymigraine.com, you get that diary. It's very simple. At the end of the day or in the morning, you just check. Did I get a migraine? What was I taking, etc. The second thing is that it's the doctor. Well, first of all, let me go to the treatment idea list. What that is here I am talking. Maybe one of your listeners says, hey, I'd like to try acupuncture. And she mentioned a TMJ night guard. And she mentioned blah, 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 the migraine hat or this or that. So you just make a continual list of everything that you read on the Daily Migraine or anywhere else that you would like to try at some point that you have not tried yet. And you keep that. The third thing, which pulls it all together, is you go to your migraine doctor every 3 months. So you go 4 times a year. That's what's recommended.
Right.
And I think that's perfect. And you keep this doctor appointment companion and you try 3 things. This is why I finally got better, I think. You try one drug or combination of drugs that your doctor gives you. You try one alternative, like acupuncture, like, all sorts of chiropractic, whatever. And then you try, meditation, and then you try an other, which could be anything. It could be really just anything, losing weight, changing your diet. And so I would try 3 things, and I give them 3 months, because you can't quit a drug that you're trying, a migraine drug, until you try it, until it either knocks you out with bad side effects or until you've gotten to the dosage that's supposed to work and it didn't work. So that way you try 12 things a year. So that's what I do. So I have the doctor appointment companion, which you just fill out right before you go. It says, here are the 3 things I've been trying. You have your diary so you can show whether they worked or not. Then you put your questions down that you have so you don't forget them. And then you have a notes. Here are the next 3 things I'm going to try that you and your doctor decide you're going to try. And that way you keep these. And over time, like, that's why I know I've tried over 100 different things, because I have all those sheets. And that way I always bring the pieces of the puzzle back to the doctor. We brainstorm. I leave. I have my notes, and I do that for 3 months, and I go back again. For people who are very organized, it's a great, great system. And then your doctor can really help you. But you can't come and forget what you've done and not remember, and just they're supposed to sit there and just come up with ideas. It's too all over the place. You're not going to get better that way.
Oh, definitely. You need to have all pieces of the puzzle, and I can tell you that, folks, firsthand, obviously. When my son was a seizure patient all those 3 years, that was one of the fundamental things that they had mentioned to us was keep a journal, especially with the parents, of when did he have it, what was he doing, where was he, how long did it last, like every little thing you could think of, document, because every little thing you may not think, any detail you may not think is pertinent, might very well be pertinent. And so I learned that kind of the hard way over and over again over time. So, folks, it's a tested and true thing. Any information is not bad information. I guess that's the way I look at it. Is the more information that you have, the better it is. You know what I'm saying? Obviously.
Yes.
Now,
and you can't remember all this stuff anyway. And then you show up, and it's like they're throwing something in the wind to figure it out.
So my very last question to you is simply this. Obviously, as a migraine sufferer, are you finding that you're in a position at this point where you're feeling comfortable enough to be able to say, you know what, I might have these migraines for my entire life, but I'm able to live with them. I just want people listening out there to realize that even though it is a horrid way to live, so to speak, there is hope that you can still function, still be a person who's active, and still be a person who feels like a real person. Make sense?
Yes, with 85 exclamation points. I will repeat what you said, which is that I am a person with migraine disease. There is no cure. I can absolutely live like this. I've gotten it to the point where I am in remission, and I get the rare breakthrough migraine, which doesn't send me into a tailspin like I'm going to go back to where I was, because I know I've changed my life in many, many ways, and I keep it that way. And I stay as healthy as I can, because I think that makes a difference. And, and if I had had the daily migraine, I probably would have been in remission a long time ago. But I had to figure all this stuff out myself before the Internet. Like I said, I'm 58 years old, so I had to do it that way. But there's so many ideas out there. They should just, once again, go to thedailymigraine.com. It's like a library repository of everything you want to know. And then definitely join Facebook or Instagram, especially Facebook if you're a Facebook follower. And you'll see there's 6 or 8 posts a day on stuff that can really, really help you.
Definitely. I agree with you there.
And buy the
now,
migraine
speaking
hat,
of the way,
so I can give the money.
I
can give the money to charity, and so you can feel better.
That's exactly right. Now, before I forget, we're going to do a couple of things. I'll go through all the ways where people can find you or find your product, obviously. I want to remind you that, obviously, this episode is live now, but in about 2 hours, it's going to be archived. So anybody can go back and listen all year round, anytime they want to this entire interview. So they can do that. And I don't want to forget to make a very special thank you to Miss Andrea Pass with Marketing Maven. Without her, you and I would not be actually orchestrating this interview. So I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. She reached out to me. This has been so delightful on many levels. First of all, it's been informative, it's been inspirational, and those are some of my favorite interviews, of course. So let me read this off, folks, so you can find Lisa Jacobson. It's dailymigraine.com is the name of the website. Within the course of the website itself, if you go to the section entitled Migraine Hat, that'll give you all the features and information about the product itself. You can also find her on Amazon and YouTube. She has an Instagram, which is at the Daily Migraine, and also Twitter, at the Daily, and it's migraine minus the E, I noticed, on the Twitter handle. That I caught that, actually. Thank goodness for me.
Yeah.
Are there any other
They
places?
have a limited number of, letters.
Oh, I see. I did not know that. Now, can you be found anywhere else? Because I was looking, I didn't know if you have a personal Facebook page or LinkedIn page or any other places where people can connect with you.
No, I think you got it, and I think the Migraine Hat can be on the website, on Amazon, or on migrainehat.com. And mainly follow the Daily Migraine. After you go to the website, follow it on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter.
And they will, of course, me, meaning the host in particular, will be watching it because somebody said in a half an hour they're going to be posting information. I am very curious to find out the answer to that question in terms of, what we're asking. Because nowadays we live in a world where we trust our doctors, but sometimes doctors can misdiagnose something. So I'm very, very intrigued to try to find out the end result on that.
Once I'm done, I'm going to go down and I'm going to put it on as a question.
Oh, my gosh, I came up with a question. I'm so proud of me. Now, the very last thing I want to leave you with, young lady, is we always like to surprise my guests on the show. And you know why? Because I watch, like, all these other journalists, and I watch all these other shows, and I'm like, sometimes it seems like the very mundane. Hopefully I haven't given you a mundane review. First of all, I enjoy doing interviews where I'm not, anybody can do the very, hi, how are you? Where did you come from? Why did you come up with this? So I hope it's been interesting, and I hope that it's been intriguing. I hope my questions have been out of the ordinary. But the other thing that we like to do on my show is we like to surprise people because, well, what's life without excitement a little bit? And I think that a woman who's lived with over 9,000 migraines over the course of 25 years could use a little good news or at least a good surprise. So as you were talking through the course of this entire interview, I was thinking to myself, how can this woman get this concept down on a much bigger platform? So here's my suggestion to you, and you can take it or you can tell me no. One of the things you probably don't know about me is I'm not just a radio show person. I'm very heavy in all sorts of other areas, and one of which is the Independent Film Circuit, Independent Film Festival. In fact, I am hosting my very first festival this year in June in New York City, tail end of June, actually. And lo and behold, what you may or may not know is that there are two different places where I have found two different films that have been done relevant to migraine headaches. Now, let me tell you why that's relevant to you, my dear lady, because I'm going to reach out to both entities. If I can get them in some manner, shape, or form to involve themselves with my festival, because they're film relative, and unfortunately your migraine head isn't. But if a film relative entity were to enter into my film festival, let's say, and let's say that you had a number of the product that you wanted people to know about, et cetera, and sell, you would have a platform to do it in a very public manner over the course of 3 days.
That is so amazing.
I'm just throwing it out there.
That is amazing, Cindy. Thank
you. Well, we
like
to help people on my show. Well, obviously it's what people do, right? You're supposed to help other people. I started this show so that people listening in could hear about a woman named Lisa Jacobson that last week they never knew anything about. Not because you're on TV, not because you're in a film, because everybody's a celebrity who comes on my show. But you inspire people. That's huge for me. Anyone that comes on my show that does my fabulous four, that's entertain, inspire, educate, or amuse, or motivate, that's it. That's celebrity material to me. And you've done just that. You're a living, walking, breathing inspiration to people. The fact that you walk around and you function and you do these things and you've created something on your own time to help other people, what kind of a person would I be if I don't offer you a platform to make it work? That's what people are supposed to do.
So awesome. And I will tell the whole community on the Daily Migraine that you're doing that. That's really, really wonderful.
You don't have to do that.
Thank
really,
you.
honestly.
No, it's wonderful.
Well, what we're going to do is I'll reach out to the migraine filmmaker, and there's also another area where I know that there's been some sort of shorty done or something. I'll reach out to both of them. I'll extend them an invitation to come to New York City to at least, even if nothing else, as long as I can even just show the film during the course of it, that technically justifies it. Because the name of my festival is Art is Alive, and I've done the circuit a long time, and one thing I've noticed about Hollywood and the bigger film festivals, they've gotten away from the art and legitimacy. When I say, this is a film festival and you have to be film or entertainment relative, I mean it. That means I'm not going to entertain all my friends just because I can. But if I can get my friends in via using film as a reason, of course, there you go. So that's how you got in. I just had to sit and think about it while you were talking. So I was listening to you. But
you were hatching the idea the whole way. I love it.
Well, that's what us creatives do. We're a little nuts. I'm telling you, it's the wine. See, you come on my show, you talk about migraines, you tell me I can't have wine, you're taking my wine, I'm not going to come up with good ideas. See how that works?
Exactly.
So what we will do is either you can send me your info or have Andrea send me your contact information so we can try to coordinate how we would make something like this happen, because I don't think I know how to reach you directly, outside of your website. And I'll watch on Daily Migraine to get my answer today. We'll coordinate it off the fence. Thank you for taking all this time. I meant it. You were just a wealth of knowledge and information, and let's hope that we can get it out to a bigger audience. But I just appreciate you taking the time and your knowledge knowledge. And thanks to those that may not be thanking you, I'm sure you're making a fundamental difference. So I stand for everyone when I say thank you for the countless hours that no one thanks you for doing what you do that makes people better. You should know that.
Wow. Thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure to be on. Thank you again.
Thank you, my dear. All right, Lisa, we'll be talking soon. You have a great day. Thank you, dear.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Is she fabulous or what, right? I absolutely love making people spend so much of their time, and I mean that. You know that, folks. When you spend that amount of time helping someone else, somebody needs to step up to the bat and say, hey, we appreciate you. One more time, I'm going to throw out all the ideas ideas. You can tell it's been a long morning already. Lisa Jacobson is her name. She is the founder, once again, of the dailymigraine.com. That's the website you can find her on. Read her story. Go to the forum. As I said, we can go ahead and check out the information about Migraine Hat. She is also on Facebook, which we did forget to mention that. My apologies to Lisa, because when we were going through that, it was just a foregone conclusion. So once again, one more time, she has dailymigraine.com. She's on Instagram at The Daily Migraine, and Amazon, YouTube, Twitter, and as we had mentioned before, it's at The Daily Migraine without the E. And of course, obviously, if you go on to dailymigraine.com, you're going to find the Migraine Hat section. And of course, if you look on fabulous Facebook, under the Daily Migraine, you'll be able to find her Facebook page. And that's where her update's going to be today in reference to my question about migraines. So once again, big hugs and thank you so much to Lisa. Cannot say it enough. Andrea Pass is a publicist who is kind enough just to reach out to me and say, hey, I've got this absolutely fabulous client. She didn't lie. She certainly delivered. Absolutely fabulous client that came on, was just so inspirational. So Andrea Pass, thank you so much. To those of you that might have any kind of media relations needs, PR needs, anything in the PR realm, please go to www.marketingmavenpr.com. Check out Andrea or any of her fine associates at the company. I'm sure they'll be able to help you. So again, Andrea, thank you so much. I hope I've done a great job for you. I hope you can send on future clients my way. Thanks so much. Again, folks, as I might have mentioned to you, my next show is Wednesday, 12 o'clock. Lisa, the cake sculpture lady, will be coming on the show at 12 Central Standard Time. I hope you guys have a wonderful afternoon. I'm off to run about 8,000 errands, and I'm still on a mad hunt to find my new car. So keep your fingers and toes crossed for me. Thanks so much for listening in, and we'll talk on Wednesday. Take care.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. By singing dog. By goal.
I pronounce you.
By wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figure it out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. By singing dog. By goal.
I pronounce you.
By wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figure it out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.